Welcome, joyful creators and all of my Longmire fans. This is Funday Monday, part 32, part 2 of the border. And today we are going to add some detail work into this yellow strip on both the long sides of our blanket. So before we get started, you need to make sure you have the right side, the front side of your blanket facing up. You need to have your chart. The only color that we are not going to use for detail work on these sides is your number 8 color, because that's the color that you did this section in. And obviously detailed work is not going to show up on there if it's the same color. But all the 11 colors we're going to use, and we're going to use each color once on each long side of the blanket. So I need you to pause the video and grab all of your 11 colors besides your number 8, and I need you to cut 2 30-inch strands of each color. So you will have a total of 22 30-inch strands, and there'll be 2 of each color. So go ahead and pause the video, and when you have all of that, go ahead and put your first 1 strand of your first color on your darning needle, and I'll meet back with you and we'll go ahead and get started. So on your blanket, we did 200 rows from top to bottom. On this orange part, we added 3 rows all the way around. So that gives you 3 rows at the top and 3 rows at the bottom of your blanket. So 200 plus 6 is 206 rows. So that's what we're going to be working with. Now I want you to put your darning needle in the very top corner of this part of the border, the top of the orange here, or your number 4 color, whatever color that is. All of this space in the corner here, we're not going to do anything with. So we're going to start from this corner over. And if you look, you kind of have a line here. That's going to be your starting line. Okay? So I want you to go to the very middle of that. That's your center line. So that's where we're going to start. So what I need you to do is come back on the back side and put your needle through. And I just pulled my yarn out. So let me get my yarn back on my needle. Okay. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to count down 7. Okay? So your needle's in number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? And this is where we're going to start. So go ahead and pull your needle through and your yarn, and then turn your blanket over to the back like this so you can see that yarn tail, and you want to leave a little bit that you can weave in when we're finished. So grab that, turn your blanket back over, and we're going to make our first stitch. And we're just going to make a line. So we're going to go 1 down and pull it through, and that gives us a line. Now, just like you did when you did the dream catcher and the other arrow, you want to make sure you pull it close enough to the blanket that it's not going to snag on anything, but you don't want it so tight that you can't see it. Okay? So we're going to go down 1 and pull our needle and yarn through, and we're going to come back and join that one. So that will give us 2 straight lines. We're going to do another one, and this will give us 3 straight lines. And now we're going to create kind of the feathers to our arrow. So find that starting point from the 3rd one, and you're going to come over 1 diagonally. Okay? Pull your needle and your yarn through, And you're going to go over diagonal one more time. So pull your yarn and your needle through, come back up into that beginning stitch on the diagonal, just like that, and go back and join that middle line. And now we're going to do the same thing to the other side. We're going to go over one diagonally. We're going to go down one more diagonally. Pull your needle and your yarn through. Come back up into that beginning part of the stitch and join it back to the middle. Okay. Now we're going to go down one in the middle to create our next line. And we're going to do the same thing that we did on that last one diagonally. It's hard to see around the camera, sorry. I'll make sure I'm doing it right. Oops. And then we're going to come back up through this stitch and join the line. Just like that. And then we're going to do this side. And I know it might be hard to see this beige on the yellow, so I'm going to do one more with you after this one. Okay? And now let's create our next line in the middle. And we're going to do one more diagonal set of feathers, so to speak. And we're going to do it just like we did the last two. Want to make sure you create that space in between them. There you go. And then let's do this other side. And meet back in the middle. All right, now we're going to add 7 more lines to the middle here. So let's do that together. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. Now we're going to put the head of our arrow on, and we're going to do it very similar to how we made the feathers. So we're going to come over one diagonally and pull our needle and our yarn through, and then go down diagonally one, and then we're going to go in one more like that, come back up through this stitch and join it to the middle. And now we're going to do the other side. We're going to go over one diagonally, and we're going to do a second one, and a third one. And we have created our first arrow. Again, I know that's very hard to see that beige on that yellow. When I'm looking at it, I can see it clearly, but the lighting might have it, making it a little bit difficult. So I'm going to do a couple more with you. But before we go to the next one, we've got to weave our ends in. And I'm just going to do this with you one time in case someone needs to see this. And all we're going to do is we're just going to go under a couple stitches on the top here. Like that. Pull it through. The last one we came out under, we're going to go over the top of it, and then we're just going to slide back through those stitches like that and pull it through. And that one's finished. And we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're just going to come underneath a couple of these stitches. Like so. Go over the top of the last one we came out from under and go back through, pull it through, and that's all we need to do. And then we're going to grab our scissors and trim those tails. And we have completed our first arrow. Okay. The next color, number 2 on my chart, is minty green. So I'm going to grab my minty green. It's also another light color, so I will do one more with you and do that red with you because you'll definitely be able to see that red. But let's go ahead and get our second color on our darning needle. Okay. And now we're going to come to the tip of our arrow right here, and we're going to count down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Mark that hole, come to it on the underneath side, and pull your yarn through. Again, you want to make sure you leave enough of a tail for weaving in. And we're going to repeat this. We're going to come down 1 and pull through. That's our first line stitch. We're going to make our second one. And we're going to make our third one. And then we're going to start making our feathers diagonally, just like we did the last time. All right, here's our stitch. We're going to come over diagonally and pull our needle and our yarn through. Make sure my beginning tail was out the way. Come over one more diagonally, pull that through, come back to the beginning of that stitch, and join it to the middle. Okay, and now we're going to do the other side. I'm having to kind of do this a little left-handed to try and work around this camera. Let's see if I can move a little bit better. It's hard trying to hold the blanket and do the stitches. All right, and now we're going to join it back to the middle. Okay, now we're going to add the next line in the middle. And now we have to do our diagonal stitches. So come over one diagonally. All right, come back up into that beginning stitch and join to the middle. And now we're going to do the other side. Come back up in that beginning stitch and join to the middle. We're going to add one more middle stitch and then do one more set of feathers. Make sure we're keeping them separated. All right, come back up to the beginning of that stitch, join it back in the middle, and now we're going to do the other side. Come back to the beginning of that stitch and join it to the middle. And now we're going to add 7 middle stitches. 1, 2, my yarn came off my needle. 3. All right, have it back on. All right, and we're going to add another one. This is 3. Let me see if I can move this blanket up some. So 3. And the next one makes 4. And 5. Six. And 7. So now we're going to make our arrowhead. We're going to come diagonal 1 and go down one more diagonally, and we're going to do that one more time. Apologize, I'm having to try and do these kind of somewhat left-handed so you can see what I'm doing. And I lost my yarn off my needle again. Sorry about that. Okay. And now we're going to join it to that middle stitch. And we're going to complete the second side. So go diagonal this direction. And we're going to do that 2 more times. 1. And 2. And there is our second arrow. My poor blanket is being stretched. And again, it's really hard to see it, but when you're looking at it straight on outside of the camera, it can be seen very, very good. All right, so go ahead and weave in the ends for this color. Go ahead and attach your next color. For me, that is red. You will be able to see what I'm doing a lot easier with this arrow, okay? So go ahead and weave in your number 2 colors, get your number 3 strand on your needle, and I will meet back up with you and do that arrow with you as well. So we're going to do the exact same thing that we did between the top arrow and this arrow, and we're going to skip 6. So come right to the top tip of the last arrow you did and count down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, then take your needle and come through the back side into that same hole and pull your yarn through. And again, make sure you leave enough of a tail for weaving in. All right, you're going to come down 1 and pull that through. I'm going to do my best to keep my hands out of the way. It's really hard doing this around the camera. All right, we're going to come down one more time. And make our second line. And you can see that a lot better now. And we're going to make our third one. And this will be a lot easier for you being able to just hold your blanket. And then there's our third one. So now we're going to start our little feathers. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come from the middle here, our middle line, and we're going to go down 1 diagonally. So this is the hole we're going to come up in. Just like that. Okay. You're going to go diagonally 1 more time and pull that yarn through. You're going to come back up into the beginning of that stitch. And you're going to join it back to the middle line. Just like that. You're now going to do the same thing to the opposite side. You might have to keep checking on that tail and make sure it's not getting weaved in, your beginning tail. Come back up into the beginning of that stitch. And join to the middle. Just like that. Okay? All right. See if I can straighten those stitches some. There we go. All right, now we're going to add our next middle line. So we're going to come down 1. I'm trying to do this where I can see it and you can see it. And join it. And we're going to do the same thing we did before, and we're going to come diagonally, just like that. Come back up through that beginning stitch. And join it in the middle. Just like that. You want to make sure your lines are staying apart. Okay. And now we're going to do this side. Come back up through that beginning stitch. And if you really want your lines to stay straight, you can actually come up through the center of that end of the yarn from the last strand you did, just like that. And then join it to the middle. And look how straight that makes that. All right, we're going to add another line in the middle. Join it. And we're going to do one more diagonal set of feathers. So come into that diagonal stitch and go one more diagonally. Come up into that beginning stitch and join it to the middle. Just like that. All right, and we're going to do this side. Go down one more diagonally. Come back to that beginning stitch. And take it to the middle. And we finished our feathers. And now we're going to do 7 stitches in the middle. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let me scoot my blanket up. And 7. And now we're going to do our little arrowheads. So again, we have to come diagonal. So there's my first one. And we'll go down one more for what will be stitch 2. And we're going to do one more. That's the third. We're going to come back up here and do that actual first part of the diagonal. And join it to the middle. And that side of our arrowhead is done. Okay, we're going to do the same thing over here. And then we're going to come back up through that stitch. I apologize, it's kind of hard for me to get up in there so you can still see it. So let me go up under the blanket. There we go. Yep, you can still see that. All right. And I'm trying to go inside that red a little bit. So I can help keep the stitches straight. And it is not wanting to cooperate. All right, there we go. And we'll do one more after this one, and that will complete our arrow head. And then join it back. And there we go. And there's the next arrow. Okay? So we're going to weave in these stitches. We're going to weave in the stitches. We're going to weave in our tails, and then you're going to continue going down another 6 space and then add your next color, which will be, for me, the orange, and then so forth. Remember, you're going to skip your number 8 because that's the color of your base. And you're going to go all the way down until you've made your last arrow in your number 12 color. Okay? Once you've done that, I will come back and join you, and we'll look at doing the arrows on the other side of the blanket, and I'll also help you get started. So go ahead and finish up this side, and I'll meet you on the next side. I'm going to do my best to show you the arrows down this side of the blanket now that I have finished it. Again, it's a big blanket, trying to work around this camera. So I'm just going to do the best I can. And there we go. So now that we have completed that side, we are going to do the very other side the same way. The only thing different, let's see if I can get the blanket up here. And like I said, it's really heavy, so it's hard to try and get it up here so that you can see it. Is we're now going to reverse our colors. So we're going to start with number 12 color and work our way down to our number 1 color. So I'm going to work one arrow with you on this side, and then you're just going to repeat going all the way down just like you did on the other side, except reversing the colors. So once again, remember, you want to come to the corner, and we're going to go across 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that we're going to be starting in that middle, and we need to come down 7 spaces to start with. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is where we're going to start our first arrow. And once again, you want to pull it through, leave enough of a tail that you can weave in later. And we're going to come down and make our first stitch, and then our second straight line stitch, and then our third one, and then we're going to start making the arrows, and you can pick whichever side you want to start on. And I'm not really going to go slow with this because we have completed all of these arrows on the other side. So if you need to have a slower instruction as a reminder, then you can always rewind the video to the beginning of the other side. All right, and now we're going to start the part for the second set of arrows. And now the third set of arrows. And again, I try to go in the middle of that thread there to help keep it in a straight line. And then we're going to work on the body of our arrow by adding the 7 straight lines. So here's number 1, and here's number 2, 3, and 4, and 5, 6, and 7. And now we're going to add our arrowhead. And then we're going to come back and do the other side. And this will finish this arrow. And all we'll have to do is fasten in our ends. There we go. And there is our first arrow. And so we're just going to keep making our arrows all the way down just like we did. Remember, you will have a space of 6 before you'll start your next arrow. And your next arrow will be your number 11 color, and then 10, 9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you get all of those arrows completed, we'll come back and talk about what to expect next. So I'll see you in a few. So we have completed our other side, and probably the easiest way to show you this side is, and the other side together, would be, since the blanket is so big and I can't get it all under the camera, I am going to pause the video and go take a, overhead view picture of the blanket, and that way you can see it in its entirety and get a better look at both sides. So I'm going to pause this and go take that picture, and then I will get that up on the screen for you. So here is a overhead view of the blanket in its entirety, and oh my gosh, what a warm fuzzy I got, and I continue to get as I look at this picture. I hope that you have enjoyed this blanket as much as I have, and for today, this has been Funday Monday, part 32, part 2 of the border, and we have just actually 2 more parts of the border left to do, and then we will be complete with our blanket. Next week we will come back and we will add some embellishment to the top and bottom of our blanket, and then on the last and final week we will add 3 more rows around the edge of the border here. And then our blanket will be finished. And then I hope you're ready to start our Call the Midwife series. So until next week, stay safe, be joyful, stay crafty in your own way, and make your own joyful creations.